Journey from paycheck to pension. If you're ready to Welcome to the next stop on your journey from paycheck to pension. If you're ready to take your finances to the next level, you're in the right place. It's time to take control of your future, starting now, and we're doing it live. Hi, we're the Stidhams, and our goal is to help you get self-directed. It's the tax-free income that will shape your legacy. It's wealth, time, and the freedom you deserve. What you're about to learn will enable you to make confident and strategic moves. It means gaining complete control to invest in what you want when you want. We've helped thousands of people just like you. And if they can do it, you can too. So we hope you're ready, because it's about time that your money started working for you. And we're so excited that you chose us to show you how.
Starting right now.
Hello. Thank you all so much for joining us. Oh, we've got tons of people popping on. So we decided to jump on a little early tonight since we were already ready to go.
Because the bride was dressed and she was standing at the wedding.
He always says that. He says, the wedding will not start until the bride is ready. Guess who's always the bride? Yeah, we're always waiting.
True
Well,
story.
sometimes it's me. Anywho, we appreciate you guys tuning in. All of you for tuning in. We've just grown so much and we've had so many people reach out and share love with us. So first of all, we just want to say thank you so much. We love your feedback and just the fact that you guys take the time to write into us or however you leave it on a comment or inside the group. It means a lot to us. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, any form, any feedback, because I use it all. And I think I look at this, it helps kind of prove my wife right. And to put it in, I don't know how to put it any other
Oh,
way than that.
you know what?
What's up?
Do tell.
Oh yeah. So no. So what it is, I question whether this path we are walking down is the right one, and I always question it. You know, maybe it's the what you call it, the imposter syndrome or whatever, the psychological nonsense that I also internally deal with. But I said this to about 6 or 7 different people last night. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this, and I just remember your words ringing in my head going, well, if you really think you're supposed to be doing this, then you need to go meet people where they are. And where is that? That's out here in social media land. I was like, well, all right, let's go. So thank you.
And I think that's actually a good segue. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's a great segue into what we're talking about tonight because sometimes it's just our programming that makes us say things and adopt different ideologies or particular ideologies that actually do limit us. For you, it was I don't really do social media. It's not my thing. Like
And who
I'm
wants
on
to
there.
listen to me? Like, come on. I don't like listening to me. So my kids
Right.
don't like listening to me.
But when we were younger, like social media and the people that you listen to on social media, they needed to have like a particular platform, right? Like Dave Ramsey, for instance. There wasn't anybody else who, for a long time, for many years on social media, no one else who was really like standing up to say, "Hey, this is how I did it," and then people would just like listen, right? That you had to have like a best-selling book or something like that, like be on Oprah's couch in order for you to be able to fully share your story.
Right.
And this is the part that I think is the most important. And and Billy, I think he's a great example. If you don't follow him, definitely follow him because I think that he's also part of what we're going to talk about tonight too, in regards to inflation and how to handle inflation. But I want to say this part. The part that's important is that we at some point we had to say, okay, that's enough. How you feel about getting on video, how you feel about being on social media is robbing other people of the opportunity to have their lives changed.
That's it.
And it, I mean, think about it. If we could have been out here 3 4 years ago when I first started, like, hey, this is what we need to do, right?
Push.
Yeah. And if
Push.
3 to 4 years of people who haven't couldn't be served because of how you felt. And I want everyone else to think about this, because what is it that you have that you can offer others in this way? And maybe it's this conscious gate that is keeping you and keeping other people, this information from other people. Sometimes when I feel like, oh man, we haven't had a day off, and that was kind of the whole point, is that we don't, this, we should be working smarter, not harder, right? And we didn't have to jump out. So that was another part, was like, well, maybe this is just enough, and we just need to just stay here where we are. If we did that, we wouldn't be able to share it with other people,
Right.
right?
Right.
And there are these moments where I go, when I find myself getting lazy, and I say to myself, if you don't get up right now and you don't go build that worksheet, you don't go build those solutions for other people, then you are literally robbing them. Like, your comfort right now is what is the cost that they've paid for your comfort, and not providing them solutions. And that hits me a little different today. And here's why: we had to find this information somewhere. Now, whether we knew how to connect it all together or whether we did some of this on our own doesn't matter. We had to get the bulk of the information from somewhere, whether it came from a book, right? Somebody's ebook. Where else? A, a course.
The internet,
Yeah,
like
right. Some
YouTube.
person had to curate the information in order for us to obtain it, right? And so essentially that's what we're doing. We just, this feels different for us. But anywho, the love that we have received really has my heart so completely full right now. And the stories and the comments, this is life changing. This has been life changing for so many people. Oh, here's Charles. I've never known you to be lazy, workaholic, creatorholic, maybe.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Plate spinner.
Yeah. But this feels effortless almost now at this point to get out here and talk about this. And I think the reason why this can feel this way is because the hustle is different. And that's, I think, the point that I was trying to make. There's a difference in getting out there to do something because you have to, right? There's a difference in showing up because you have to versus showing up because you want to. And it's almost like there's a return on that in how it makes you feel. I can tell you right now that when I used to want to even just go out to go hang out with friends or whatnot, Donnell would be like, I am an introvert. I am not a social person. And when we would leave a place, he would be completely drained. What surprised me is that walking off of a 3-hour live stream and you are still super charged up, like that blows my mind. You're talking to people literally all day from 6:30 a.m. till sometimes 7 p.m. You have back-to-back meetings, and you'll come off of that and not just be completely drained. And I think that speaks to purpose.
Right. And I'm 100% there. And I was going to bring that up as well, as I even stopped using the word introvert. Like, I think I'm a self proclaimed introvert, mainly because I used it as an excuse to not kind of separate myself and actually do what it is I'm supposed to be doing. So I think in using it as an excuse, I self-proclaim myself an introvert, and I think it's kind of hard for me to place myself in that bucket based off some of the interactions that I'm having, and not walking away from that fully, like I need to be in a corner somewhere, leave me alone for the next 3 hours so I can recharge type thing. So yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
Okay. And speaking of recharging, that's essentially what we're all trying to do. If our income, if our retirement accounts, if our lifespan, right, is a battery, our goal is to get that battery charged up and have some way of keeping that battery charged for the remainder of our life
Right.
cycle, right?
Right.
And that's what we're talking about tonight, is when inflation hits, you suddenly go from you think you got a full battery to now the battery only charges to 80%, 60%,
And it's
40%.
slowly draining. I mean, and to the point where man, do I need to jump out here and go grab another battery? Like, I need to go back to work, right?
That's it. Yeah. And a lot of the advice that we've seen, like for instance, I went to Google. So let's just take a field trip to
Let's do it.
the first page of Google. I went to Google and I was like, you know what? All right. How do you keep up with inflation? How do you do it? What's Google have to say? What's coming up on the first page of Google? Because this is not very many people go to the second page, right? So Investopedia, invest in the stock market. CNBC, inflation surge, where to put your money according to experts, short-term bonds, CDs, savings account. Lock your money up and put it in the casino. Well, I don't think that savings accounts is necessarily the same thing. However, if you leverage your money in a savings account, now it's not growing anymore. So it's just a different thing. But all of these, Forbes, Market Watch, Nerd Wallet, Time Magazine, let's see, The Motley Fool. I don't know how many of you read that, but I tend to enjoy some of their articles. Fortune.com, Fidelity, Harvard Business Review, Entrepreneur.com, Discover, The Times, USBank.com. All of these articles are all about finding different bonds. They're all about trying to give you the confidence to take your money and put it in the casino. That's essentially what they're saying, is just to take what it is that you currently have, and the best chance that we got here is to go put it in a casino, in a stock market, and go play a game that is not guaranteed for you to win. One thing that they are all in agreement with is that you cannot control inflation. And you can't control what is going to, the conditions and what is going to happen. That is something that we can't control on a personal level. So what they're saying is we have to be prepared for this. But what they're saying, in order for us to be prepared, is still the same exact risk. So if they're saying put $1 in and hoping that you get $2 or $3 out, but you could also, that dollar could also turn into 25 cents, 40 cents, or something that is a lesser amount, just reduced in its value, and that's not okay. But this is all that they have to offer, because some of these people, some of these websites and these institutions can only offer those. Do you want to talk about that? And so that's where I think that this particular topic is important, because not only are we going to flip the script on how you prepare for inflation, we do not approach this in the same way. You cannot budget your way to inflation. There's no amount of money that you're going to be able to save in cutting out Netflix or cutting out this or cutting out that is going to prepare you. It can what you do with that savings could, right? But just saving that amount is not going to make a difference. There's no amount of side hustle or part-time job or whatever it is that you want to add on to this to make more money. These things are not going to prepare you for inflation, and they're not going to safeguard you against inflation either. And that's the part that I think we're gonna dive into. So we've got some videos. We found some videos that we went, oh, gosh, we have to share this. So do you have anything you want to share before we jump in?
Yeah. So I think well, I think you said it very, very well, and that is, to me, inflation is a math equation. Like, to me, it's not as simple as, hey, do A, B, and C, and hey, inflation will be okay. And as you went through those articles, what I found interesting was, if you were to group them into buckets, there were your news organizations, but then there were those who were just strictly banks, custodians, financial institutions, all saying, hey, the way you beat inflation is buy more of our stuff. Keep your money over here. Don't move it. Just buy more. Now, I'm actually okay with the AAA rated bonds part, but the market's on sale, so buy more. That is just, it loses me, because what we're talking about is the answer to this problem is mathematical. It is not anything other than that. And I just want to make sure that, so as we kind of walk through these, I'll explain what I mean as far as how to beat inflation is really more about just math. It's simply math. And if you can grasp the equation, then it's kind of easy to, I'll call it, overcome. So.
Well, we've already showed you the videos from the retirement gamble. So if anybody's new here, they haven't seen me, heard me just go on and on about this documentary, you have to watch it. It talks about, and it explains, walks you through how 2/3, which is an average of 19 years, that are stolen from people because of fees. And so when you are reading these articles and they are these people should be well trusted, right? Some of the names that the New York Times, like some of these names that I listed off, you want to be able to trust them. Like, yeah, if I'm going to get my financial advice, I'm going to get it from a place that's been known and trusted for years, right? Tried and true. But when you see what they're doing, what they're actually saying, what's in between the lines, they're actually saying this is how we are going to beat inflation. You putting into the stock market, you buying these types of funds that we profit from is how we are going to beat inflation. That's why we got to know this stuff.
Yep.
So you want to show the first video?
Yep. So first one being the what is it? The
Inflation?
young man, the 36-year-old, or is it the gentleman?
Yeah, blue shirt about inflation.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.
$1 million 1993 today is now $2,070,000. Inflation in 5 years will probably devalue half of everyone's money listening to this in their 401ks, IRAs, and their soft saving accounts. Like right now, the world is a wreck, and their only solution to the devaluation is they're going to have to work harder. Over the last 20 years, 2002 to 2022, salaries have increased 27%, but the cost of a home has gone up 148%. In other words, like our cost of living and lifestyles is not keeping up. Average person drives a $60,000 a year car that has a $50,000 a year salary with over $100,000 of student debt, 60% of America living check to check. We have a problem. And being busy is not the solution, and getting another job is not the solution. You have to graduate and develop more of the Gen Z millennial mind that says there's got to be a smarter way. It can't be the immigrant way of just work harder, because there is something to say for hard work. But if it's not smart enough hard work, then it's stupid work. It's dumb work. And there's a lot of financial idiots out there that have just not gotten themselves educated. $1 million 1993
So-
today is now $2,070,000.
So go ahead.
I personally feel like we should have put the Gary V right after that but we could just talk about it. Gary V was saying that if you drive a BMW, buy a Toyota. Does he know the price of cars today? Do you know how much a Toyota is? Do you know how much a used car is? This market is insane. It is not sell what you have and then go buy something else at today's prices. This is crazy. The amount of stuff that people are saying, even Dave Ramsey, we were watching that video and he was telling somebody to sell their home and downsize. Well, do you know, Dave, that the house that they bought back in, what was it? The 20 years?
Yeah, about 25 years ago.
Is not to sell that house and then buy a smaller house. They are not buying at the same market value.
Right.
So why, and here's the point. He doesn't know how to leverage equity. He doesn't understand any of these other strategies that could get them in a better position and how to use what they currently have just in a different way. Outside of that, what he's saying is take yourself and put yourself completely at risk. And sometimes it makes sense to pay more to gain more in the end. Sometimes it does. To your point, it's just math, right? When the maths, then it makes sense. But if there's no actual equation and it's just an overall assessment of, well, these are the tools that I have, and this is what my advice is to you, that's fine. If that's all he knows and that's his wheelhouse and this is the only place that he gives advice from. But the difference is, I think Gary Vee is very good at building business. He's very good at building brands. He's very good at a lot of things. But financial strategies that will safeguard people against inflation, a lot of the things that are coming out of his mouth, I think he's just out of touch with today, because I don't think he's even bought a Toyota to tell somebody to go and purchase one. A $60,000 vehicle is not just a BMW. It could also be a Toyota, right?
See, the thing is, and again, I go back to this is a math problem, because, and I guess this is also my challenge to those who make videos like this. I agree. $1 million in 1990 looks like 2 million today. Okay, so then what do you do? Like, tell me what action to take. Like, I get it. You called out the problem. There's a problem. Yes, we know. Now, what do? And work smarter, not harder. Awesome. That's an umbrella. There's a whole lot of things that fit under work smarter, not harder. What do you mean? And I think if we can break this thing down to um, what are those tactical steps that you take? And so the second video that we have kind of talks about specifically the math around, you know what, if you put a certain dollar away, you'll be fine. If you just put this certain dollar away, then in the future, in 30 years, you will be okay. And so you merge inflation, there's a problem with, hey, just do these things. And what I would like to do is put those two together, kind of break down how we accomplish both. So if you want to jump into the second one, that would be great too.
Yep. All right. Let's check it out. Whoops. Here we go.
$1 million, 1993.
Wrong one.
Today is now $2,070,000. Inflation in 5 years will probably devalue.
Higher rich people say they get at least $10,000 of passive income each year, but no one actually teaches you how. I'm a 36-year-old self-made millionaire and former public school teacher, and I can explain how they do this in 60 seconds. 1. Go to Vanguard, Charles Schwab, or Fidelity and open a new account. Open a new Roth IRA. Fill out your information, which will take 5 minutes. 2. Click on My Account and Deposit. Link your checking accounts and deposit $500 to $600 every month. 3. Go to the magnifying glass and type in SPY. This is an S&P 500 ETF. Click on Buy. Buy 1 share of SPY every month and click on Review Order. If you max out your Roth IRA contributions for the next 30 years, you'll have around $1 million. And because SPY has a 1.45% dividend yield, you'll get paid around $15,000 of dividends every year. And all of this will be tax and penalty free at the age of 59 and a half. Follow to see my next video where I'll talk more about this in detail.
How much money was that? 30 years.
30 years. So, and again, we're supposed to be excited about this, right?
All right.
Hey, all you got to do is take this $500, put it away for 30 years, and in 30 years, you'll be making $15,000 a year in dividends. Now, he didn't talk about the income coming from the Roth IRA, so I'm going to make some assumptions when I do this on the whiteboard. But the interesting part is we're talking about $15,000 a year tax-free. Hey, awesome. But it took me 30 years to get there.
And you
I'm
can't
supposed
leverage
to be-
it in the
Right,
meantime.
you can't do anything until 59 and a half. And he said he's 36. And I think what I did the example on was using him as 36, but still, you can't touch it till 59 and a half. How is someone who understands that inflation is going to have us in trouble? $1 million is not the same anymore. So we need a certain dollar amount. Oh, in 30 years, you'll have $1 million. So that means I'm still 1.5 million away from being able to have a 6-figure income. Like, it just, the math doesn't math. And I'm seeing a lot of this, and it's very consistent. Hey, just continue to play in the market and everything will be okay, because we're going to work smarter, not harder, to make sure that we have enough to go in retirement, but there's no specific actions on what you can take to be able to accomplish it. And that's what I'm struggling with. Go ahead.
Okay, here's an analogy. Back when the Great Depression happened, there were a ton of people who had to work with what they had, right? I mean, a lot of us still have a lot of internal programming because our grandparents, we were raised with that type of mentality, right? From what happened during the Great Depression. And so here's my analogy to this. During this time, they only had access to certain things, right? During this time, they only had a certain amount of funds that could provide enough for their families and so that they could survive. So they started to get really creative. Even like there's a recipe and it kind of started trending around recently. Again, it was a vinegar cake, right? So because they lacked, it does sound nasty. However, somebody made it because it sounded so nasty. They wanted to know because this came out of the Great Depression cookbook. And he said, okay, I want to see what this was. Well, they had to figure out different ways of making things with less ingredients and with ingredients that obviously were cheaper and that were more accessible. He makes his cake and he's like, actually, this slaps. Like, actually, this is amazing. I did not think that it was going to be this good. They made the best with what they had access to. And what I see is not that we're not out here calling everybody stupid or anything like that, because that's not what this is. It is not that people are actually misinformed either. It's that they are informed. They're just working with what it is that they have. And everyone is out there going, okay, I want to get educated and I want to help other people. But because these non-traditional strategies and these unconventional strategies are not profitable for the majority of those institutions, they are never talked about. Therefore, most of the people who are jumping into the game, most people who are trying to change their financial profile, they are also working with what they got, and they're trying to do the best with what they got and have it to be the most secure. So in a sense, what they're doing is they're trying to come up with that vinegar cake, right? Okay, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to use the same products. We're going to use the same type of ingredients that are available everywhere else, where what we are doing is we're saying, you don't have to have vinegar cake if you fix the problem, right? If you fix the problem of income. Now, during the Great Depression, there was the mass majority of people suffered, but there were some people who were playing on a whole different level, right? Wouldn't you agree?
It's called life insurance companies. But yeah.
There were people who were winning and they weren't having to have vinegar cake for their birthday. They weren't having to figure out how to make meals with scraps. That was not even a part of their existence. So what I say to this is, if you're prepared, it doesn't matter what happens. If you can leverage when this was all happening, if your money was tied up in the stock market and now you and all of the generations beyond you are now impacted by the choices and the decisions that you had to make during that time because they didn't have leverage in the same way. And those who had leverage not only made it, they got to keep it and they got to build upon it, and their legacy, the generations that came after them, they all benefited from the leverage that existed before something happened. Well, did they know that this was going to happen to prepare? Well, I think there's a lot of theories on that, but doesn't matter because it happened, right? Now we know that it's about to happen again, essentially. If we're not prepared, like today, you have to have $1 million in order to retire. On $40,000 a year, you'll run out of money. It's not enough. So now, is it $2 million that you need to have?
Well, it's actually 2.5 if we're talking about a 6-figure income. Like, who's on track for $2.5 million in their retirement?
Yeah.
But that's based off the traditional means of retiring. So I agree with you. So we're using the same information. What I also like about what you said was we're not here to call someone's baby ugly. That is not what's happening here. It's, hey, what happens if you actually just take a different perspective and look at this equation differently? Meaning, instead of using the same means to be able to accomplish your goal, what would happen if you step outside the box and just took a different direction? And I think that's where, so to kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about is, what I want to walk through is these two videos around one, inflation. And if you take this small amount of money and you give it a 30 years inside of the market, you'll all of a sudden be wealthy with your $15,000 a year in dividend payout. Just kind of talk through that and understand why we are talking about these same subjects and what could actually be better if we just take a different approach. Because to me, you beat inflation with math.
Okay, I like this comment from Valerie. She says, "Is he even old enough to be giving advice?" And I think that I like this comment because I think when our kids are going like, we're only, by the way, our youngest just turned 18 yesterday, and my eyes are probably still puffy from just bawling my eyes out because this one hit hard. It's the last one to be adultish now. And when we're talking to them about these topics, they're saying, but I'm only 18, but I'm only 20, but I'm only 22, right? In their minds, they think, oh, when we get your age, that's when we'll get serious about it. And how many generations of people had that same concept? And what we have to beat into their heads is, you have to start now.
Put yourself first.
Yeah. And for our youngest, he just started a job and he hasn't got his first paycheck yet, but in his mind, he's calculating like, how much will I have left? Because you guys said I have to pay myself first.
And taxes.
I have to pay myself first. But I think what he does realize is when we told him the amount of money that he would have, like, bro, you're walking out of here buying a house, right? You're not walking out of here to go rent and build somebody else's wealth. This is how we're going to do that. And so this is why this is an important topic to us, because we have to look at things differently. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Do you want to jump over to the whiteboard or
Yeah.
the calculator?
I say we just jump right into it. We can go to the whiteboard, and then we'll jump into the calculator after that.
Okay, cool. Oh, it didn't have a fun thing.
That's all good. So I guess kind of set the stage a little bit, as I mentioned. So the thought process is, again, merging these two videos together. One being, hey, inflation, how do you beat it? And then two, where do you put your money in order to do so? And what I just wanted to highlight is we keep talking about the same thing. And
These comments,
there we go.
man, cracking me up.
Hold on. There we go. We keep talking about the same thing. And I just want to make sure it stays clear. And that is this. It's a mathematical equation. If you have anything associated with the stock market, I don't care what that vehicle is that you're invested in, if it's anywhere touching anything close to the market, this is the mathematical equation that's going to allow you to make money in it. And that mathematical equation looks like A times 1 plus or minus R to the X. And the way you eliminate that minus sign highlights the risk. Meaning this piece right here is what causes these dips. If you can eliminate the dips in the market, then the market would be a great place for you to put your money. So how do you beat inflation if you're in a vehicle that has risk? It's very difficult because you don't know when that dip is coming. And that dip can cause you to have to recover for the next 24 months or 41 months or 71 months just to get back to where you were. So how do you compensate for inflation when you're putting your money in a vehicle that is filled with risk? Well, you have to eliminate the risk. And just so we're clear, what does that mean? And I go back to, it's a mathematical equation. It is pay yourself first. Right now, not later, pay yourself first today. And you have to put your money somewhere secure, meaning somewhere where when the market crashes, you're not losing the money that you've made. You're not losing the money that you've accumulated. And then you compound your money, meaning you grow it. It grows exponentially. Not exponentially. Compound your money such that your money starts making money, and the money that your money makes more money. And then the last piece is you add leverage. When you add leverage to an equation like this is how you create exponential growth. So it's pay yourself first, starting today, somewhere secure, compound your money, and then you exponentially grow it using leverage. How many vehicles out there fit this equation? What are the vehicles out there that fit this equation? Again, going back to those two examples, the first one was, hey, we need to work smarter, not harder, but didn't necessarily say how. And the amount that we need in order to go into retirement needs to look like more, because $1 million back then is not the same $1 million today. But these vehicles that we're being offered all speak to the same areas, and that is risk. They all talk through or all highlight this piece, meaning put your money somewhere. Pay yourself first today, but how do you eliminate the risk? And if you can eliminate the risk, this is a game changer. And so if you don't mind, go ahead and jumping over to the calculator, because what I just want to do is highlight the same. Yep, there we go. Highlight the same figures that he was calling out inside of that example around what he used to be able to achieve the $15,000 tax-free in dividend payout over a 30-year period.
Yeah, real quick though, because Amara on LinkedIn, I'm paying attention over here. We can't bring LinkedIn comments up, but I am watching, guys. She's saying that deposit $500 a month, because that's what he was saying, right? Mm-hmm. She's like, sure, I just won't pay rent. And for a lot of people, this makes a big difference. And if it has to just be sitting somewhere until they're 60 years old and they can't leverage it in any kind of way, then regardless of what happens to the market, let's say the market, like the real estate market crashes again. If you were in a position to have leverage in 2008, weren't you in a good position? Don't you remember hearing the stories of how many people were foreclosing and having to do short sales, but then also how many people were just sweeping up neighborhoods? Like they were buying 2-for-1s pretty much. And if you're in the position to leverage, you can leverage that. So when you're thinking about, okay, well, $500 a month, like that puts a squeeze on me. It's different when you're putting it into something that you can leverage it while it still grows. That's a completely different idea. When you're thinking about, I don't have that $500, the relationship with that action, with that mentality is completely different when you don't feel like you're sacrificing and you're having to go without. This is playing a completely different level. So I love that she said that, because in the beginning that was exactly how our kids were. They were like, "Say what? Well, why can't we just," right? And it's different when they saw the bigger picture.
But that's also where this equation matters, but it's coupled with action. Because I'm with you on, hey, I don't have $500 a month to be able to put towards a vehicle like this. Notice the mathematical equation didn't say put $500 away. What it said was pay yourself first. And so before you pay a bill, before you pay rent, pay yourself first. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is where it's the strategies that we talk about. And I'm not sharing with you something that I think you should do. I'm sharing with you something that we actually do. Because to your point, we had to use leverage from a previous employer's 401k in order to do velocity banking. The purpose of velocity banking was to free up cash flow. Why? If at that point we needed to put away $500 a month, it didn't exist. So if the goal is to pay yourself first, then we needed to take some action to put us in a position to be able to pay yourself first. And okay, maybe you don't have a 401k that you can leverage. Get it. The concept is still the same. It's using velocity banking to be able to put yourself in a more positive cash flow position. And so it's understanding where are those opportunities where I can do so. And if you're living beyond your means, there's no magic wand for that. If you're living beyond your means, you have to stop. And there's no mathematical equation out of that one. But once you start doing so, and once you start getting your head a little bit above water to where you actually are in a more positive cash flow position, now you can use some of the vehicles, some of the tools that you already have to create more cash flow. And when you do so, where do you put it? If you leave it in that savings account, you're opening yourself up to spend it. If you leave it in that debt tool, you're opening yourself up to spend it. The whole objective is to pay yourself first, because you put that money into a vehicle that can actually make money for you. It teaches your money how to make its own money. And when your own money starts making its money, then you spend that. So instead of spending the money you just made, turn that money into an employee and have it go recruit other employees so they can start building your own machine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a really good question that came in real quick before we move to the calculator. It's from Derek Carter. He says, "Hello, I was wondering, can you use velocity banking when you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, when you don't get paid monthly?"
Yep. And I say monthly in most of my velocity banking examples, mainly because it's at the end of the day, it's just math. Actually being paid bi-weekly can actually benefit you better, because you get to manipulate when bills are paid and when different, I'll call it expenses need to be addressed as it relates to using debt tools around statement dates and due dates. So it may even work better in your favor. So it's really just, again, it's just math. So whether you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, it's throwing as much as you can into that debt tool and reducing that debt.
Okay, I also want to say, no, I just got distracted. Never mind. I had something. It was going to be important. Yeah, no, it was because I keep getting all these notifications on the iPad. I'm like, do not disturb. Okay, well, anywho, we can just move on.
Yeah, let's step into the calculator. So again,
Okay.
The thought process is the $500 a month. The $500 a month achieves or allows you to achieve $1 million in, I'll call it, inside of your Roth IRA. And then as a result of using that $500 a month inside of the S&P 500, it also produces a dividend. And I'm going to make an assumption in jumping into the calculator. I'm going to make the assumption that he's talking about dividend plus income, meaning it's not just $15,000. He's talking about $15,000. And in addition to that, there will be an income there as well. So go ahead and jump over to the calculator.
Well, I just remember what I was going to say. I just want to say it. So
killing
this
me,
is the
Smalls.
part you were saying, pay yourself 1st and not living outside of your means. This is the point that I wanted to make. Sometimes we do things because it makes us feel like all of the work that we're putting in is worth it. Like, I'm going to treat myself. And if it means that I'm sometimes putting something on credit and I'll pay it off over time, it makes all of the time that I'm spending working worth it when I come home and I've got this experience to come home to, right? When I need to take a break from work or vacation and I charged up this vacation because I need that and I wanted to make it make sense, make it all worth it. Sometimes we do that. I think this is the shift though for people. It was a big shift for me. Instead of desiring those things to check the box that it's all worth it, right? Like, okay, what am I working for if I'm living in poverty? What am I working for if this is my life and I keep trying to work harder and my lifestyle isn't improving at least, right? What am I working for if I'm not checking some box that says that I'm doing good, that I'm doing more than okay, and that I'm actually enjoying life? These are the parts that help, that are kind of the root to why we make the decisions that we're in and how we get ourselves into these situations. But I think the shift happens when you understand where your money's going and what it's doing. When it's not just sitting collecting dust in an account and you think, oh, it has to be a rainy day in order for me to use this. There has to be a reason, a good enough reason for me to use this. Suddenly we start coming up with reasons, right? Like, because Best Buy has it on sale. Good reason, good enough for me. I'm going to go and buy that TV, whatever it is, right? What is the reason? Do I hear a reason? Let's do it because I'm excited. I want to be able to do that. It makes me feel good, like I've earned it too. And giving ourselves permission is something that's hard enough as it is. And I think when you have a good strategy, a solid strategy, and you know that you are winning now and in the future, right? You don't have to choose the win today and sacrifice the win tomorrow. You get to have them both and you start thinking about things differently. For me, I like to use the analogy about our kitchen countertops that like 1992 called and they want their countertops back. Every time I would think about this in the beginning when we first moved in, I would struggle because I was like, these are ugly. I don't like them. And over the amount of time, every time I'm wiping those countertops off, I'm thinking to myself, if I would have replaced these countertops because of how they look, not because of how they function, but because of how they looked, all that money would have gone and died on my countertop. I would be wiping off dead dollars every single day, and that money would not be working for me. That's the truth. That's now you know what's in my head. That's what I told myself. And it didn't take me very long to get out of that cycle of wanting something different just because of how it looked, wanting something more just because of how it looked. I would ask myself, is it worth it? What you would be pulling out and what you would be removing from, because you can leverage it if you need to, but is this worth it? And those countertops, they weren't worth it at the time. And to me, now I'm just used to it. Now I don't even care.
We'll get to a point where, because there's a piece that I want to introduce here, and it won't be necessarily on this live because it has to be fully explained. But it's a concept called a pure compounder. The concept looks like this: if you put yourself in a position where, because you've paid yourself first today, somewhere secure, compounded your money, and it's exponentially growing, the money you spend is a part of that exponential piece. And what that means is you're actually spending money that your money has made. So it's not, you can't have the countertops. It's not, don't go on that equation. It's, where's the money coming from? Go on that vacation. I mean, where's the money coming from in order for you to do that? Right now, most of us get paid, pay a bill, have our fun, whatever's left over, we put in a vehicle that will hopefully help us get to retirement or into another place. And all we're doing is starting first with, put that money in a vehicle that can actually compound and grow for you, still pay your bills, still take your trips. Now, if there's nothing available for you to go on that trip at that point, then there's some assessment that needs to be happening there. But at some point, when that money is working for you and that vehicle is producing that secure, uninterrupted compound interest, you go on vacation from that. And what ends up happening is, from a pure compounder perspective, again, without giving the context, from a pure compounder perspective, it looks like this. Your vacations are actually making money for you. The bills that you pay in those states are actually making money for you. And it's an interesting concept to get to, but it's not very hard because it's also relative. It is not $1 million. It is, hey, I make $40,000 a day. If I had a vehicle that was producing $40,000 and I paid my bills from that secure compound interest account that's producing 40, now every bill that I pay, every trip that I take, every countertop that I buy is actually making me money, and my income is actually being used to further fund this vehicle. It just flips the whole script on how this thing is supposed to look.
Yeah. Well, that's the point is putting yourself in a position where you have leverage, because that is the most powerful tool that available to date. It doesn't matter who you are, how rich you are or not. And I like that he used, this is how rich retired people. Well, what does rich mean, first of all? And who's rich, who's walking around saying, I get $15,000 a year in passive income. So there's so many things that I think are relative, right? What's rich? If $15,000 a year in passive income is rich, we're all rich. Like, I don't get it. So I do think that there's some I guess just opinions, right? There's some perspectives that can vary here and how we look at money in general, how we consider wealth. But when you start to see where the power actually is, and that you don't have to wait till you have $1 million, you don't have to wait until you're making six figures even, that you can opt in at where you are now. Where you are right now, and use what it is that you have. When you understand, that's the whole concept of becoming self-directed, and you understand where your power is, then you can start to make moves. And they just build one on top of another. And pretty soon, next year looks like you didn't think it could look like, right? And the year after that, and 4 years later, you're going, holy cow, I would have never imagined my life would have changed like this. And that is the power of understanding and understanding where your power is, where your leverage is, and making educated, confident decisions along the way. Okay, so you ready to go to the calculator? Because they're ready for you to go there. Okay.
So again, to reset this example, and I'm going to use his age. He said he's 36 and he's a millionaire. So let's use 36. He said, I think he was a former teacher, and 36 years old, putting away $500 a month. So 36. And I'll build this out for 30 years, which means he's 66. And let's put away $500 a month. And what he said was $500 a month would give you somewhere around $1 million. And inside of a Roth IRA, and because you're putting it in the S&P 500, it would also produce for you $15,000 a year in dividend payouts. So, which is awesome. Well, okay, you put in this $180,000 over the that 30-year period, and okay, assuming a 9% return, he said somewhere around $1 million. Well, the reason he said somewhere around $1 million is because he was saying something greater than 9%. So let's change that. Let's go with a 10% growth. And you know what? I'm going to even reduce the expense to, let's call it 0.5%. So now this is now closer to that amount that he was referencing. So, hey, you put $500 a month, which is $180,000 a year inside of a Roth IRA, making you somewhere around 10%. And you would have about I think his number was 1,058,000, so 1,072,000. So I say we right around in that, right in that ballpark. And he had mentioned that out of that, he would have a dividend payout of somewhere around $15,000. Well, that $15,000 dividend payout is in addition to what's available inside of the Roth IRA as income. And so I don't think that's a bad number. So $42,000 plus 15. So we're talking 42 and 16, right? 42 and 16. So that's $58,000 tax free for the rest of his life. So $58,000 is pretty good inside of a secure compound interest, or not a secure compound interest, inside of a Roth IRA with dividend payout. But if he would have just taken that same $500 and dumped it into a secure compound interest account, we're talking $95,000 tax free for life. And you wouldn't have to wait till 59 before you could touch it. And again, I'm not discounting dividend payouts of $15,000. That's amazing. But what about income of $95,000 tax free? And I haven't even taken into consideration how do we beat inflation. But the piece I just want to be clear is the reason people don't talk about a secure compound interest account like this is because mainstream media or those custodians, those banks, those financial institutions can't offer life insurance based products. But in addition, how do they make money off you if they do? The difference between these two items is this piece, this expense part. I'm only showing a 0.5% expense rate. I am confident no one on this live, none of the 60 people on this live who have a traditional retirement account or a Robinhood account or a Rocket Mortgage, or I'm sorry, not Rocket, yeah, Rocket Mortgage. They do have Rocket accounts, or any other type of investment account tied to the stock market. I am confident that your fee is nowhere close to 0.5%. So it's just not realistic. But in a vehicle like this, that also not only has your contribution, but also allows you to add leverage. This is leverage of about 1.3 million starting in year 3. So your 180,000 is making on average 7%. You're leveraging 1.3 million, making another, let's call it 3% on average, producing about 925,000. Notice how this number is less. Less money, less net worth, but the difference is the income. $95,000 compared to 42. And then the question is again, but how do you beat inflation? Well, the first step is this. In most of the inflation, I'll call it videos we watched and articles that we read, we're basing this on, again, traditional retirement-based vehicles. And so what that means is, yes, if you are expecting as a millionaire to have a 6-figure income, it's nowhere near. Well, one of the ways you beat inflation is you reduce the risk. You reduce the risk of losing your money. So name a vehicle that allows you to reduce the risk. One of those vehicles that I know of is a secure compound interest account like this. That's one. And the other is this. What is your income? And if you're able to put away $500 a month, what is your income based off this $500 a month? $500 a month is $6,000 a year. So if you make, let's call it $60,000 a year, and you're putting away $500 a month, 6,000 divided by $60,000 is 10%. So ultimately what this is saying is you're currently putting away 10% of your income. Well, as you get older, you tend to make more money. So if you're making $60,000 today and you're putting away 10%, if in 5 years you're making $70,000, the way you compensate for inflation is you keep the same percent of what it is you're contributing into your secure compound interest account or into that vehicle that's producing compound interest. So if it's 10% today, then as you make more money, you keep it as 10%. So if it's 10% today based off $60,000, when you're making 70, you put away $700 a month. You're making $80,000, you put away $800 a month. And the thought process is this: if you maintain that 10% throughout the life, I guess I'll call it the lifeline of the vehicle, what will end up happening is this dollar amount that is based off just simply $500 a month, not making any more money over time, equating to $95,000 tax free, this dollar amount would look more like $180,000, $190,000, if not more. Because your contributions are based off a percentage of your income and not based off what you have available. And it goes back to pay yourself first. If you pay yourself first today, you're educating yourself on how to live off that using this example, 90%. You're educating yourself on how to maintain your lifestyle with 90% of your income. So when you do get a promotion, rather than changing that to living off 95% of your income, you keep it at that 90%. That additional dollar amount, you weren't expecting it anyway. You weren't planning for it anyway. So now you put it in a vehicle like this, all it's doing is making more money for you. And again, the piece I want to make sure that it's not lost here. Who wants to wait 30 years to touch their money? What does this
No
look
doubt.
like 15 years later? Oh, that's not 15. 15 would be, what is that, 41? No, it's not. It's 51. Can't do math today. 51. So what does this look like 15 years later? Now, I'm not saying you can retire off $20,000 a year. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is you've got an asset worth $176,000. Now, your Roth IRA has more, but at age 51, what can you touch with that IRA that you wouldn't be taxed or penalized on? And now we can go down the path of a backdoor, backdoor ATM or whatever the case may be. But the short of it is this: you can't without being taxed or penalized. And so this $176,000 that you have available to you, it's liquid. So if you needed to pay a bill, if you needed to buy an asset, if you needed to buy a home, you wanted to put a down payment on a home, it's all available to you. And how you leverage this doesn't impact its growth. So you're still on path to be able to achieve your goal at retirement age, and you're able to use this dollar amount for whatever you want. And then the last piece, God forbid if something were to happen to you, on day one, your beneficiaries would receive $216,000. If something were to happen to you beyond that, we're talking about $1 million payout, $1 million death benefit payout to your beneficiaries if something were to happen. Where does that exist inside of that Roth IRA? So again, not only are we talking about beating inflation, but now we're talking about legacy. Because if you can't beat inflation, how do you leave a legacy? Like, what are those steps that you take? And so, not to overcomplicate this to me is really, really simple. It's math. The way you beat inflation is this: the dollar amount that you're contributing, and I don't care where it is. If you're contributing in a high yield savings account, if you're contributing in the stock market, whatever that dollar amount is a percentage of your income. The way you beat inflation is you maintain that percentage throughout the lifeline of the investment. So if you're investing in the stock market, you're investing in real estate, and you're using 15%, 20%, 8% of your income, you maintain that. And if you start today, to the lady or to the person who mentioned, hey, what if I don't have $500 a month? Think about this. If you were to start it at the beginning to pay yourself first, whatever that percentage is, as you made more money, your expenses wouldn't have exceeded that 95 or 90%. And so therefore you would be able to maintain that growth throughout because you were disciplined in the beginning to pay yourself first. But we aren't educated that way. And hopefully that's the message. If you don't receive any other message today, that message is just simply, you have to focus. It's a concentrated effort. We have to pay ourselves first.
Okay, we have some questions,
I'm sure we do.
but real quick, I want to challenge you because you said something, and I've also heard you get advised like a different direction from what you just said. So you said $500 a month if that's like where you start, but then you start making more money, and then you're able to put more money in. There's also, when we're talking about inflation, it's not just for us. It's also for our kids. So if you're watching and you have kids, grandkids, whatever kind of kids, adult kids, we said we would stop calling our offspring kids. We don't have another word. We already had that discussion. Point is that when they go, like them at their age, that 20, like early 20s, mid 20s, this is not the same game. We could move out of our parents' house. Matter of fact, a lot of us either moved out before our 20s, or some people got kicked out when they were 18, like, boop, I'm done. I have served my time as a parent, and now it's your turn. Get out there. Get out there. You could do it, right? You can't do that the same way today because it's just a different game. If we think that it's difficult for a young person to jump out there and become independent today, imagine what it's going to be in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years. So here's the challenge. Because you said, if you've got 500, you start making more money, you can put $700 a month, and so therefore it will just grow faster. But the other thing,
whatever that percentage is, but go ahead.
yeah, the percentage. But let's just say that you have kids along the way. So now you're making more
Life happens.
income, but now you have
More
kids, now you have a
responsibilities.
spouse, whatever it is, but you're making more income. And so now you've still in your mind said, this amount is non-negotiable. What can I do with this amount? Somebody had asked this question, Jordan. Jordan was asking, okay, so once I've acquired the debt tool, right? Once I've gotten some leverage, once I've freed up some cash flow, how do I start to accumulate wealth? How do I jump in as fast as possible? Because while I'm crushing debt, I could also be building wealth, right?
Absolutely. It's a simultaneous action.
And so here's my question. As that cash flow increases, as that debt starts to reduce, and as they have more available to do more with, you have often said to people, especially when we're talking about kids, that starting their policy, because even though there's a death payout, even though there's leverage here, even though the more money you have going in, the more money that's compounding, what would the difference be if you had started your kid a policy and then you pass away? You already have a policy, but you didn't put the more money into your policy. Now they have a money machine that is making money for them that can grow with them. So they're not getting this cash payout, and then now you have to hope, cross your fingers, that they know what to do with it, right? You've essentially already set like a set it and forget it type of situation. So you fund it to a certain point, and then they can continue to fund it. They can increase it if they want to. And now they'll understand the power, and it'll just keep going. This is how wealth is built. This is how people who didn't come from money make families that do come from money, right? So the challenge is, what does this look like? Why are you laughing? I'm
Because you
getting to the
said, I'm
point.
going to ask you a question, and then you just answered the question. But go
Okay,
ahead.
what would it look like? No, here's the question, it's coming. What would it look like if you took that money? So whatever $500 he was saying,
Yes.
but
With you.
now he's got more money freed up.
Yes.
What would it look like for his kid if he had put that extra $200 a month into his kid's policy?
Yes. Okay. I will answer. But
Okay,
before I answer, what
right.
you're also saying is, I've got this machine that's already running. I've already put the key in the ignition, and it is running, and it is working, and it is moving.
Yeah,
Rather than feed that machine more, we're going to start a new machine, which is the right thing to do. Don't get me wrong. However, mathematically, if you take a machine that's already building based off that $500 a month, and you dump another $200 into that machine, you don't have to wait 2 years before the leverage kicks in and before this machine starts to take off. It's already a vehicle that is moving for you and producing income. So just produce more faster. That's number one. But number two, if you are in a position to start a secure compound interest account for your kid, there's nothing that you will get from me that says don't do it. But if we're just talking about mathematically, which one would produce more income faster? Continue. It's a snowball rolling down a mountain. Starting pushing the snowball down the mountain versus you got a boulder that you're adding more snow to. Again, it's just math. One is going to grow faster than the other. And so I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think, but here's where I thought you were going. I talk a lot about 70, 20, 10.
yeah, okay.
10% pay yourself, 20% expenses and bills. I'm sorry, 20%, 10% pay yourself, 20% to your debt. The other 70% is your expenses. And as your debts get smaller, as you're using velocity banking, leveraging your home, or whatever other actions you're taking to eliminate that debt, and that you reduce that debt, what do you do with that additional cash flow? Well, you have to either go find more debt, or you take a portion of that money that you're no longer putting towards those debts, and you dump it into your secure compound interest account or your vehicle that's producing income for you. So what was 70, 20, 10 now becomes 70, 10, 20. And again, as those debts get smaller, then it becomes 70, 30. Then why not 60, 40? And again, you start approaching that. What I mentioned was a pure compounder existence, where your money is making enough money such that you can use that money to pay bills. And now the bills that you pay are actually making money for you, which is a strange concept. And I can't wait to kind of explain it on this board, and we'll get there. But the thought process is this: the whole point in paying yourself first is you can get to a point where this vehicle can pay those bills. So as life happens, as children are born, now you've got a vehicle that you can use to open up more compound interest accounts. You got a vehicle that you can use to pay those extra bills. It's not so much a concern that now I have to run out of here and make more money. You have a vehicle that's available to you. Go ahead.
Okay, and that's a good point, because there's a couple of questions in here, and I think that kind of answers some of those. Go ahead.
But I want to address something. Would you mind putting up Antonio Rodriguez's question? Because this is very important. I want to make sure, because there are times where my tongue moves faster than my brain. He's right after Jordan's comment. I just want to make sure this is 100% clear. It is possible that I might have said the difference between a secure compound interest account and, matter of fact, if you flip over to the other side of the board, I'll bring it back up. I just want to make sure this is clear. I talk heavily around, there's a difference between the traditional stock market based investing and a secure compound interest account. And that difference is risk. If you can eliminate the risk, if you can get rid of that minus, eliminate the risk, you can actually grow more income. And the piece is this: inside of this secure compound interest account, this equation says that there's zero risk. That is what this equation says. But here's the truth: there is not a product out here that has zero risk. The goal is to eliminate as much of that risk as possible. So make that minus smaller. So no risk? No, that is not true. There is absolutely risk inside of a secure compound interest account. But here's where there's not. There's no risk to the growth on your money. There's no risk to the money that you've contributed. There's no risk to the growth on the money that you've contributed. Now, inside this vehicle, there's a call option made inside of a secure compound interest account. And again, I'm not going to dig into the details of that, but there is a certain amount of risk that goes against the money that you use to buy that call option. It's a go, no go, yes, no, 1, 0. So there is risk there. But the cool part about a product like a secure compound interest account is the fact that we have been able to reduce the risk to the point where we're able to produce secure uninterrupted compound interest by doing what? There is zero risk, zero market-based risk on any dollar amount that you contribute into a product like this, and any growth on that money, there's zero risk. So those are the guarantees inside this product. But does that eliminate risk, as in no risk at all? That's not true. So I just want to make sure that was addressed. So we can go back to the calculator. And if
Okay. Well, I just wanted to address a couple of the comments here. Jordan was saying, when is the right time to leverage? No, this is not the right one. Hold on. It's a different one. Gosh, I'm such a rookie at this. Okay, I had it.
you got a lot. I mean, you're on I think it's 4 different platforms you're pulling up questions from. So it's all
Where's
good.
the one I
I'm
wanted
patient.
to? Okay. Oh, when is the right time to advance make an advance from your debt tool, before you get paid or after you get paid? And I think I was confusing this with the other comment around the point is what I thought and I thought was important to bring up here is being able to leverage your debt tool. One, I just want to say there's a couple questions in here about velocity banking, and I hope now you know that's why on the summary page there's the 70, 20, 10 graph there, so that you can at a glance be able to see what those amounts are.
70% goes towards debts. 70% goes towards expenses. 20% goes towards debts, and that remaining 10% is where you should be getting it compounding. And again, I'm not here to tell you where. I just struggle to put it any place other than a secure compound interest account. And I can address the question as it relates to when should I take an advance from the debt tool. I can just in concept, without having a whole lot of detail, I think it's a pretty easy response. And that is this. If I understand what it is you're saying correctly, and I'll just reread the question: when is the right time to make an advance from your debt tool, before you get paid or after you get paid? And when you say advance, I'm hearing cash advance. So I'm hearing chunking away at a debt. So if you're using your debt tool to chunk away at a debt, I think first it starts with what type of debt tool are we talking about, because they're all different. If we're talking about a credit card, is it very critical. There are critical moments when you should or shouldn't take an advance from a credit card to be able to pay a debt. If we're talking about a HELOC, it really kind of doesn't matter, because the HELOC is a bit more forgiving. And when your income goes into that HELOC, it's going to drop that balance down as quickly as possible anyway. So I don't know that it matters. So it really depends on the type of debt tool. And then when you look at the type of debt tool, I'm questioning why it's an advance. Like there's so much here. Are we talking about paying debt from that tool and you can't pay it directly, so therefore you have to take a cash advance to be able to do so? So I just want to, there's a lot of context here, and I would say the easiest thing to do is let's get on a call and talk about it. Or we can jump into the Facebook group, and if you have some questions there, because that way I can provide the detail, because it's just very difficult to do in a setting like this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Next question.
One more. What can I do with my 457 deferred compensation plan? I'm angry that I have 125K sitting there. What are my options?
So first off, don't be angry, because how many of us got a 457 plan that don't have $125,000 sitting there? Like, first, that's an achievement. Now,
Yeah.
and then the other is, are we talking about a current employer's plan or a previous employer's plan? If we're talking about a current employer's plan, you really can't do anything with that 125,000, because that 125,000 actually isn't yours. Now, it will be yours once you leave that company, or it will be yours once you transfer to another company. But as of right now, the people that are actually in control of that 125,000 are the people that you work for. So in order for you to be able to do anything different than what's currently happening, you have to get their permission. Now, they may allow you to, more than likely, your 457 is, if it's with a current employer, is invested in some target date fund, meaning based off your age and based off your projected retirement date, that your 457, the structure of it is is invested in these mutual funds, stocks, and bonds based off that age and that retirement date. So what you may be able to do is, if you're concerned about losing that 125,000, you may be able to reallocate where some of that money is going and reduce some of the risk, maybe transition to more bonds and less mutual funds. But that's something that you'd have to ask. But as far as being able to take it out and do something with it, if it's with the current employer, there's not much there. Now, if we're talking about a previous employer's plan, you've got many options. And again, the whole point and purpose of this channel is about taking control. You do have the ability to take control over that 125,000 and do different things with it. But before you even think about going down that path, I would have a goal in mind before you even think about it. Because being self-directed is about control. There is no one standing over your shoulder. There is no one telling you what you can or can't do with your money. So you need to have a plan of action in place so that you don't make that situation worse. So I would say that 125,000 is not a bad thing. Don't be angry. But there's some more conversation that may need to be had around what you can or can't do with it. A lot of words. Next question.
Real quick, I just wanted to recognize that we have over 40% now in TV viewership. It's amazing. You guys are comfortable. It's not weird. Quit saying that. I like it. And they like it too, because it's more comfortable. They're not watching a small screen. You know what? They can see your handwriting better. So,
but they can see my forehead too. Like, what I'm saying is, we're on somebody's big screen. It's like, I gotta be huge. I mean,
take a picture of us so we can
like,
see
oh
what we
my
look
God.
like. Okay, well, here's the point. The point is, you can point your phone right here at this QR code, and this is how, if you're not here in the chat with us, this is how you can jump in and ask us questions. This just texts us directly. So then we can see your questions and we can answer them here. And also, you can call us and leave us a voicemail. We would love to hear your voice if you have some feedback for us. We had a really nice comment earlier that said Donnell needs to quit drinking on screen. So if you have constructive criticism, you can also leave that in there too. Just kidding, but really you can. Okay. That's all I just wanted to say, to recognize when people are going, I have a question, but how do I get my question up there? Well, we can't put it up there if you text us, but we will address it. So that's all I wanted to say. We do have some more questions that I think would be just to get those out of the way really quick.
Yeah, I thought I saw
Carolette,
some numbers on that too. I thought I saw someone had a few numbers that they wanted to put up, so we can jump in the calculator too when you're ready.
yep, I'm ready right after this.
Yep.
Carolette says, does the HELOC make sense if you don't have any debt? Now, here's what I like. I like that you guys are already identifying leverage. Can I use this type of leverage even if I don't technically have a reason to have this leverage, right? Or to go grab this tool because of debt, like a qualifier like that. Can I use leverage? She doesn't have any debt, has cash flow, savings sitting in a high yield savings account, good credit score. The goal is to use equity to build wealth. You know what, Carol?
And it's,
Carolette?
she just answered that, like she answered her own question. Because here's my thought, and let me back up a little bit. So it's going to be words.
Words. Okay, here you go.
Most of us will pillage our income and pillage our retirement to fund our home. How many of us out there, because I'm one of them, have borrowed money or taken money out of their retirement account so they can go buy this house? And to me, that's always been backwards. Well, I'm someone who's done it. So now I realize how backwards that whole thought process is. Meaning our home, our home is one of the, if not the largest assets we all have. Any of us who own a home or any of us who have a mortgage on our home, that asset is 9 times out of 10 the largest one we have. However, it's the one that's least leveraged. And it's because the people who hold that mortgage don't want us to. So the last thing they want to do is educate us on how to leverage this large asset that we have available. So it sounds like you are in a great position financially, zero debt, low expenses, you've got cash flow. My question to you is, what's the goal? My assumption is the goal is wealth. So if the goal is wealth, then what are those vehicles you're using today to achieve that? Let's list them out. And then we go, how are they doing? Are they achieving the goal you thought they would? If the answer is to no to any of that, then we need to look at some other vehicles. And if the pace in which you are achieving that goal is happening, if it's happening at the rate that you want it to, I see nothing left to be done. But if it's not happening at the rate that you need it to, then what are those other options available to you from a leverage perspective to be able to turn up the volume and increase that growth so that you can hit your goal? It all starts with the goal. And so what I'm getting at is my assumption is your goal is wealth. My assumption is you're not currently leveraging your home. So is there an opportunity to do so? Absolutely. So now the question is how? How do you leverage your home to be able to produce income for you? Are we talking about a first position HELOC? Or are we talking about a second position HELOC? Again, I think it's just doing the math. I think there is nothing wrong with a second position HELOC. There's nothing wrong with a first position HELOC. Interest rate matters. Flexibility matters. How you're able to use it matters. How much money you can get from it matters. Where you're going to put that money matters. So there's many different paths down here. I don't think there's a one answer that I can provide to you. But I will say this. There's nothing wrong in using your income to build wealth. And there's nothing wrong with leveraging your home to build wealth. And if you're currently not, I would absolutely do so.
Yeah, let's go to the calculator.
Let's do it.
Okay,
What numbers we got?
and well, we have, let's go back to Carl because he was first in with the figures, I think. 16-year-old insured granddaughter for 5K annually for 25 years, and then show me for 35 years.
25, is that 41? Man, I'm struggling with math today. 41, what was
Maybe,
it,
maybe,
5K a month?
maybe I'm contagious. Okay, it's, yeah, 5K annually.
Oh, annually. So 5K annually.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
struggling
yeah,
there.
what,
What's 5,000 divided by 12?
yeah, what is that? Gosh, I hate when you put me on the spot for this type of stuff.
440 or something like that?
It's 416
There we go.
or
416.
17,
That's
something like that.
417. Perfect. Thank you. So 16 years old till age 41, $417 a month. So that's 25 years. So we're talking about an asset worth almost $500,000. And if you're doing this on a child or a grandchild, we're talking about you would own this policy, so you'd have an asset available to equaling somewhere around $500,000, income of about $52,000 tax free, and it's a death benefit that's being purchased of right around $255,000, and overall death benefit of about $1.5 million. So this is pretty awesome after 25 years and not knowing how long you would want to be able to receive the income from this. But let's say you receive this income for the next 20 years. Well, this 41-year-old is only 61 at that point. And so if you pass this back over to that 61-year-old, and if you were able to maintain that $500 a month, you don't have to, by the way, but if you did till age 61, you've just left this person with $265,000 tax-free for the rest of their life. They're just reaching retirement age and they no longer have to worry about a dime. That whole inflation comment, that's $2.9 million of liquid cash. That's a death benefit of right around $3.9 million. Like, please show me the Roth IRA that could come close. Well, how about this? I'll show you the Roth IRA. That Roth IRA would have about $3.6 million in it, which is awesome. But look at the difference in income. And again, we're talking, what is that, 45 years away? So what does inflation look like? If $1 million in the 90s is now $2 million today, what does this look like 40 years from now? Which one is more likely to be able to allow you to survive and beat inflation?
All right. Valerie says $1,000 a month from age 62 to 72. What do it do,
is the situation
Donnell?
here. The $1,000 a month is actually a good number, but the issue here is just simply time. There's nothing. So as I usually talk to my clients who are, I call it 55 plus, it's really about time for us. And so $1,000 a month for 10 years, we're talking an asset worth. So you would have put in 120. Notice the difference here. This is the part that gets me. Notice if that same $1,000 a month was in a Roth IRA, like 236,000 is awesome compared to 154,000. That's 80 grand difference. Like, that's crazy to me. But look at the difference in income. So if we're talking about supplemental income inside of a on top of Social Security, on top of whatever other vehicle you might have, we're talking about an additional $13,000 in tax-free income. You simply give this more time. And I am not suggesting that more time means you have to work longer. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying you allow this vehicle to compound, just give it more time. Meaning, let's say at age 72, you didn't necessarily need this $1,000 a month or $13,000 a year, rather. I'm sorry. You didn't need this $13,000 a year. What you actually wanted was just supplemental income. Well, if you were just able to give this vehicle more time, let's call 77. That's an additional 10 grand a year because you allowed this money to continue to compound, meaning you can use this dollar amount. $1,000 a month is 12 grand a year. If you had the ability to take 12,000 out of this number and put it here, well, you allow this vehicle to make the contributions. Now you can run this out even further. And it's all about time. If you just give this money more time, it can do some great and wonderful things for you. So $1,000 a month for a 62-year-old for 10 years till age 72, we're talking about 13,000, but you give your money more time, it can do some better things for you.
Okay. I think this is Harry. And he's saying he doesn't have Facebook, but he meant transfer to the checking account. Chunking from the HELOC, transferring from the checking account. When is the right time to make an advance from your debt tool before you get paid or after you get paid?
So, and this is where it goes back to the type of vehicle, because if you get a vehicle such that the HELOC has a sweep account, you don't even have to worry about that, because sweep accounts will every day, I think it's every night at midnight, it takes everything from your checking account and pulls it into the HELOC. Like, there's some pretty awesome tools out there. And what I would suggest is you draw a radius around a map and you start interviewing banks. Don't just settle for the bank that you're used to working with. Just because you have a relationship with them doesn't mean they offer the best HELOC opportunity, because there are vehicles out there. There are first position and second position HELOCs out there that have automation. And that automation can actually do all of this for you. It will automatically pull money from your checking account into the HELOC. And what that does is whenever there's money in that checking account, it will pull it into the HELOC, which reduces the daily interest, which gives you the best puts you in the best possible position from I'll call it debt growth, from the growth on your debt perspective. So.
Why is that doing that to me? No, that's not. Why does it do that? We're going to have a bingo card for our live stream with all the technical things. Donnell's camera freezes.
Did it
This thing
though?
pops me in and out whenever it feels like it. That's why I'm always like, when you see me pop in and I go, what the heck? It's because why am I on screen? I didn't touch anything. That's why. It's not because I'm just like trolling him or just popping on to pop on. But we should have a bingo card because these things keep happening.
So quick time check, sweetheart. I know
Yeah.
we've got our event in about 15. So
Yep. So we've got just a few more questions if it's okay to just try to roll through them. We've got some good ones actually. So let's see here. Diva Miami.
it's a dope name.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay, moving forward. Can I use funds from 401k from a former employer to front load investment?
So it depends on the investment. If we are talking about a secure compound interest account, because this is a great question. If we're talking about a secure compound interest account like a premium finance strategy like MPI that I've been showing in this calculator, your 401k, IRA, 403b, 457, all of those monies are similar in fashion, meaning they're qualified dollars. So you can move all of them amongst each other, penalty free and tax free. But if you want to take retirement dollars like your 401k and move that money into a secure compound interest account, these are all life insurance based products. And if you do that, depending on your age, you may be taxed and or penalized. Now, if you're over retirement age, then you would just be taxed. You wouldn't be penalized. But the bottom line is it's going to cost you to move money there. And as a retirement planner, I can't say in good faith, you know what? Don't worry about a 30% tax hit on your 401k. Just dump it into the secure compound interest account because it's better. I can't do that. But what I can do is the math. Sometimes the math makes sense. For instance, let's say you're 20 plus years old and you just started with a company and you haven't invested much in it. And should I, stop contributing to this $10,000 401k and go all in MPI? I can mathematically show you where that is a strong win for you. But if you're 55 plus, or that one person who had $125,000 in their 457 plan, I believe is what it was. Would it be okay to take a tax and penalty hit of 30% on 125,000 to get it into MPI? No, I wouldn't suggest that. There's other ways of going about it. There's annuities. There's other opportunities out there for you if you're wanting to grow that money outside of the traditional stock market based products.
Okay. There's a couple of questions that I think could be kind of all addressed at the same time. All right. So we've got Harry says, is your home a liability if you still pay on it or an asset? Okay. So that's one. And then April is saying, Donnell, can you use artwork and a line of credit to build wealth? Okay.
Hold on. Put that back up there again. So make sure I heard what I heard.
Artwork and a line of credit. Hold on, because she has another question about line of credit.
Right.
Okay. Because I like where she's going with this. She's saying, Donnell, to maximize retirement and life insurance capabilities, especially if you're over 50, she's like, look, we are a different group, okay? Can you use, or you can use a personal line of credit, couldn't you? She's like, okay, listen. And then she's like, hold on. This is where I'm like, April's my people. Dare you to give us an example of a HELOC funding? I think she meant a secure compound interest account.
I got it.
Please. She's
All
like,
right.
could you loop
Here's
me
the
in
thing,
here?
though. A line of credit is a line of credit is a line of credit. So if we're talking about a credit card, a home equity line of credit, a personal line of credit, a business line of credit, they all function the same. Now, they may have other rules. There may be other, I'll call it hoops you have to jump through to get one, but the math is the math. What we're talking about with a personal line of credit is no different than what we're talking about with the home equity line of credit, first or second position. This is a debt tool. That's the key. A personal line of credit is not a wealth tool. It's a debt tool. but you can leverage a debt tool to fund a wealth tool. So high level, you got a PLOC of $50,000. Or that's pretty high, but anyway, got a PLOC of $50,000. You make $5,000 a year. You got $3,000 in bills. You take $5,000, put it on their personal line of credit, it knocks the balance down to $45,000. You pay bills from their personal line of credit. It leaves a balance of $48,000 on it. You keep doing that. You're creating room on their personal line of credit. What do you do with that room?
Well, show them what's happening at the same time.
Absolutely, you can take $20,000 a year and dump that into a secure compound interest account like this. So again, making a lot of assumptions. You got $2,000 of cash flow every year. So that means that's $24,000 of room on that personal line of credit on an annual basis. So taking some portion of that, $20,000, and here I'll dump in an age. Let's call it 45, and we'll run this thing out till 65, and $20,000 a year divided by 12 is 1667. So if you would put away 1667 a year, and that $20,000 is coming from the PLOC, which means every year when you put in that $20,000, the balance on the PLOC goes back up. And so when the balance goes back up, you have to spend all year working it down. But that's why you do velocity banking. So go ahead. So you absolutely can do that. Go ahead.
Okay. Because his question was, is a home an asset or a liability? Now, in the velocity banking worksheets, I specifically have it that you put it in the asset tab. Okay. The reason is the same thing that you're talking about right now, though, is how you can leverage it.
Right. Leverage the same, but just so we're clear, she asked me about a personal line of credit. I will absolutely address that, the home equity line of credit versus mortgage, liability, asset. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that, yes, you're still making payments, but if you have a HELOC on your home and you are leveraging it smartly in this way, then because he's saying like people are going, I need to pay off this house because it's considered a debt, versus somebody who understands no different than this PLOC, that they can leverage it in the same way to do the exact same thing that you're about to talk about here.
But I believe his answer deserves its own detail because he's right in a certain way. As far as can you use a PLOC to fund a SKIA? Absolutely, not a problem. But now let's address the mortgage versus a HELOC.
No, I'm not saying mortgage versus HELOC. I'm just saying you can leverage the HELOC in the same way that you're doing the PLOC here.
Absolutely. But he asked, is your home a liability? Your home is a liability if you have a mortgage on it, because you owe the bank and you can't leverage. So yes, your home is a liability. But if you have a first position HELOC on your home, it's actually a living, breathing asset that as you put money into it and the balance falls down and you use money out of it, because it's open-ended, you can use that as a vehicle, as an asset to be able to pay down or get it into a wealth vehicle. But the truth is, it's a liability is a liability is a liability. I think it's semantics. The difference between, though, a mortgage and a line of credit is this, though. A mortgage, there is only one way to use a mortgage. You can put money in it, but you cannot get money out of it. It is a liability until it is paid off flat. With a HELOC, though, depending on the state that it's in, a maxed out HELOC is a liability. That's a fact.
Okay.
But if you're using velocity banking with that line of credit, if you're using velocity banking and you got room inside of that a home equity line of credit and you're able to use that room, that's how you're able to leverage that asset. But a maxed out HELOC, a maxed out PLOC, a maxed out business line of credit is a liability.
All right. Well, let's get back to you, April, because we need to get back for the sake of time. I do agree with you, but that I just wanted you to know that's why I looped these two together.
No, it's all good. I got you. It's just it's context, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who argue whether or not your home is a liability or an asset, and to me, it's how you use it. Your home is a liability if it's used as a liability. Your home is an asset if you're able to use it as an asset. So I think it's context. And now, as it relates to the $20,000 that we're pulling out of a personal line of credit and dumping into a secure compound interest account, most personal lines of credit have a specific draw period. So I am making an assumption that this is a 20-year draw. That would be a pretty awesome personal line of credit. But regardless, can you use the money in it to be able to build income? You absolutely can. And $20,000 a year inside of a vehicle like this would give you an asset worth $1 million over that 20-year period. Notice that personal line of credit is living, breathing, meaning the balance is going up, the balance is going down, balance is going up, balance is going down. We never pay this line of credit off, but you're using the money in it, and it's a cost to use that money. Let's be clear. That personal line of credit might cost you 6%, whatever that dollar amount is. I am using leveraged dollars that came at a cost and putting them in a vehicle that is producing uninterrupted compound interest. And if I needed to, let's go to 10 years. If it's, again, I think I called it a $25,000 HELOC. Let's go to 10 years. So 55, it's a $25,000 line of credit that you never paid off. Well, if you needed to pay off that $25,000 line of credit, guess what? Pay it off. If they called it due, because someone's going to say in the comments, well, the reason I don't do lines of credit is because the banks can call it due. Call it due. Because you have the means to be able to address it. Or if you're using it properly and you were able to increase that limit, there's opportunity to even put more inside this vehicle. It really depends on the amount of cash flow you have. If you have the right amount of cash flow, lines of credit, regardless of the type, business, personal, home, regardless of the type, can be pretty powerful in producing income for you quickly. I guess quickly is the wrong word. Producing income for you over time that will allow you to not only build wealth, but to pay off whatever that vehicle is you're using if you need it to.
Okay, next up we have Portia. She says, I have $1,200 in 11-year-old savings account. I want to put the $1,200 lump sum into MPI, put $50 in monthly. How do you turn the MPI over to daughter at 21 years old?
So, sounds like you want to start a policy for your daughter, and I just need an age of the daughter. If the daughter's 1 and to 21, can absolutely do that. So 1 to 21 and a lump sum of $1,200. And remember, this is going to cut that $1,200 in half. This is saying $600 in year 1, $600 in year 2, but I have the ability to put all $1,200 in for you at one time. I just can't do it here. And then $50 a month. You'd be setting up that 21-year-old with an asset worth $31,000. I don't know about you, but how many of us at 21 years old, an asset was handed to us with $31,000 in it to be able to use how we saw fit?
We'll do 100. Do $100 because Portia, watch this. This is going to make you find $50 more, okay? Every month, $100.
Still, $31,000, $56,000. I'm happy with both. Because here's the key. The key isn't what you see here. That isn't it. What you did was you jump-started a machine.
That's right.
This 21-year-old isn't starting from day one paying themselves first.
Right.
They're starting with the machine that's already running. And all they have to do with this machine is maintain that $100 a month. If they just simply maintain that $100 a month. Now, clearly, they can't retire at age 21. That's okay. If they could simply maintain that $100 a month, let's throw on another 20 years. Let's call it 41.
Oh, her daughter's 11.
Okay. Let me come back up here. So 11 till 21. And obviously, if you do less years, it's going to be less money, but still,
Right.
That's okay. 20, come on, 21. So still, we're talking about an asset worth $17,000. I go back to raise your hand if you had a $17,000 asset handed down to you when you turn 21.
Well, think of it this way. This could be the same thing as if she was 21 starting her own policy with a $17,000 lump sum.
That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
And so all she has to do is maintain it. And so what does this look like? Let's go 55. $100 a month till age 55. On your double nickel birthday, I turned around and gave you a $64,000 tax-free check at age 55. You mad at me? You mad that you can't retire off $64,000 a year? I don't think you are. Like, this is powerful.
No, wait,
And it's
no.
all because you made the decision early to put away $100 a month and a lump sum of $12,000. This is still powerful. And you continue, again, $100 a month at 55. I think that's possible. By age 65, we're talking about $136,000 tax-free for life, all because of a decision made at age 11. Like, it's powerful. It's
Well,
powerful.
and she could increase that to significantly change that number when
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is just me making the assumption that maybe she didn't.
But we're talking
okay.
about, we're talking about inflation, and this right here is where this is powerful. Now, let's say at 21, let's say at 30, she's had this, now it's at year 30. Let's just put that, she's 30 years old now. Okay, go to the cash value. She would have $39,000. She wanted to buy a home, right? $39,000 to make some different move. And when she's 30 years old, she's 11 now. By the time she is 30, and if we've watched inflation, the hike in inflation just in the past few years, imagine what people 15 years and 20 years from now are going to do. They have to have leverage. It has to come from somewhere. There's no way that people are not making the wages to be able to save up for down payments. It's just not the same game. Right. It has to come from somewhere. We do have more questions and a time check. I just want to throw that out there.
I think it's time.
Okay.
But, what question you got?
Okay, 65 years, and then 4,500.
65 years.
And Bab, I don't know if we have enough information here. Carl, your whole comment didn't come through.
65?
Yeah, it says
Or till age 65.
65 years, income 4,500.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know either. You know what?
But I'll make an assumption. So 65 years of age, and that was 4,500. I mean, how much a month?
Well, I don't know. Oh, Kevin Ship, he says he's watching on TV. Thanks, Kevin.
So $4,500 a month?
I don't know. Maybe she needs to get in here, or they need to get in here.
So $4,500 a month for 65 years old. And again, it's about time. It has nothing to do with anything at this age and at this stage. It's about giving your money time. So my question is always the same. What's the goal? What's that income you're looking for? And we can back into whatever that income is you want, based off time. So if it's I want to do this till age 72. Okay. What does this look like at 72? 72? We're talking about $34,000 tax-free. So it's really just time at this point.
Yep. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I don't think I am. Okay. So I do think that we are going to have to wrap it up so we're not late. But I appreciate April said, yep, that's what she was looking for. And then I do want to address this real fast. Miss AB, she says she feels she's going to be paying off her home in I think she says within 2 years, she'll have paid off her home, and she wants to use what she won't be putting into her home to now build wealth. So, and now she's feeling like she missed the opportunity to use her home as leverage now that she sees all this. Well, first of all, on paying off your house, that's awesome.
And also, please don't feel bad about these things. When we know better, we do better. The whole purpose and point of us kind of getting on here and doing this is such that these are just things that we're not educated on. Had you been educated on this many years ago, you'd be in a much different place, right? And we just didn't know what we didn't know. So you didn't make a bad decision. You made a decision based off the information that you have. But that's kind of the whole point. The whole objective for this movement around getting self-directed is taking control, putting yourself in a position so that you can build wealth, take control of your time, so that you can honestly have true freedom to be ability to do whatever you want with whoever you want. whomever you want.
Whomever
So that's the whole point.
Yep. And real quick, I just want to say for those who have been asking, Greg, by the way, thank you for pointing everybody to where they can get the worksheet in the chat. This is where you can get it. So we've created some tools to help you. It's okay if you don't have Facebook. We are coming up with we have a solution. We just hadn't built it yet for people who are not in the Facebook group. Also, what we're realizing is the Facebook group is great for connecting with other people who are also on the same journey as you, but it's not so good for when we want to put information out there so that everybody can have access to it, like the video that I did about the worksheet. So we have that coming. We will have it up and ready to go for the next live stream. And on that note, so this is where you can get it, okay? If you don't know, because we saw this in the comments tonight, if you don't know, we go live two times a week, Sunday and Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we hope that you'll come back and watch us there. Come hang out with us. It's like date night with us. Yeah. So we try to make it fun so we can all level up and grow together. And on that note, our mantra is that we believe that if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
you can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay focused,
stay protected,
stay tuned,
stay connected.
My name's Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
Thanks so much for tuning in tonight, guys, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Have a good evening.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get self-directed.